A jury has found Joseph Paul DeWise guilty of killing his wife in this house. I'm Cody Boyer. What happens next?
And I actually started to talk to her, and as I walked closer to the threshold of the door, I saw that she was dead.
Audria Butler recounts the night she found Lauren DeWise dead and another woman critically wounded, both shot while they were sleeping.
Ashley was laying on the floor. There was a lot of blood in her memory. She was awake. Her eyes were wide open. She said, "Please help me."
Butler says Lauren moved into her home in mid-November of 2017, afraid, accusing DeWise of abuse.
My husband has been abusing me for a really long time.
Then the woman who survived the shooting, Ashley Van Hemert, took the stand herself.
I was shot in the back of the head. I was shot in the right carotid artery. And I know that I was shot on my right side as well.
Van Hemert described an evening with her boyfriend, Ralph Dennis, who had dropped her off the night before. That's all she remembers before she says she woke up in the hospital.
What's the next day that you can remember after going to bed?
This is no, and this is yes.
Dennis, who also took the stand, says at one point he was considered the primary suspect with an on and off past with Van Hemert. The defense argues that several others could have been the shooter, including Dennis, while Butler says with DeWise having shown up several times at her house in the days leading up to what happened, she believes it was the man sitting in the defendant's chair.
Of all of the threatening things he had said to her, because of all the terror he had already caused her, because of the aggressive things he has said to me.
Paul DeWise appeared calm, talking with his attorneys, quiet, as first a medical examiner took the stand, and then Detective Kelly Sprinkle.
Was there a lot of blood in Ashley's room?
There was a lot.
Detective Sprinkle says part of her role that January day, looking for connections from the shell casings found in Lauren DeWise and Ashley Van Hemert's bedrooms to the footprints outside the back door.
We all worked together to notify where those footprints were, see which footprints had details that could be observed with the naked eye.
Sprinkle pointed out 5 .22 caliber shell casings in Van Hemert's room, where she was shot 3 times. She then pointed out 4 other shell casings in Lauren's room, where she died. After being tasked to search Paul DeWise's home, including a shed, she says she found one such connection.
We located 4 unfired live rounds that were located inside the shed.
And what was the caliber?
They were 22 caliber.
Along with more identical ammo in his master bedroom and similar shoe prints in DeWise's driveway. And while the handgun was never found, Sprinkle says a magazine matching the bill for the gun used against the 2 women was recovered. Van Hemert and her boyfriend, Ralph Dennis, listened in. Sprinkle confirmed Dennis was a person of interest at first.
Was Mr. Dennis eventually ruled out as a person of interest?
He was.
I was afraid. I didn't know what was going to happen.
Joseph DeWise Jr. sat before the court and his own father, recounting a night at home and weeks of abuse between Paul and Lauren DeWise leading up to it.
I was starting to feel bad feeling. Before we left the house, he told me to leave my phone on my bed. It was very odd.
Joe says he had witnessed his father place GPS trackers in Lauren's car, caught her with another man. But that night, Joe says his father drove him to where Lauren was staying and told him to wear gloves and a mask. Then they broke in, with Joe saying Paul made him lead the way.
He opened the first door in the hallway.
Then what happened?
He had his pistol in his right hand, and he opened the door with his left. He stepped dressed into the room past the threshold, and he turned on the light, and someone was in the room.
Not Lauren. It was Ashley Van Hemert.
The lady said, "Who the F are you?" And he responded with, "Who the F are you?" and shot him 3 times.
Joe says he was standing beside his father as he says Paul DeWise moved on to the next bedroom.
He didn't turn the light on, and I heard my stepmother gasp, and he shot her 2 times. He was terrified, cut off, gasped.
Then, Joe says they drove home. He adds his father instructed him to remove his clothes and boots, take a shower, and dispose of ammunition.
He sat down on the couch with me and started telling me what to say. And if I didn't say certain things, that he could get in a lot of trouble.
Joe says Paul told him to say they had stayed home that night watching TV. And then the next morning, Joe says Paul took him and his sister to church. When police pulled him over on the way home, Joe says he stuck to his father's story.
I was afraid for my dad. What do you do?
Joe says he eventually told the truth weeks later with his mother at his side.
I just gave him the story that I was going to tell.
In Gallatin County District Court, Cody Boyer, MTN News. Up until this point, detectives have been quiet about whatever happened to the weapon that had been used to shoot and kill Lauren DeWise, Paul DeWise's wife. Now, today, detectives say they had discovered the .22 caliber Ruger pistol and a serial number that linked DeWise to purchasing it.
She sustained, I believe there were 7 different gunshot wound injuries from at least 4 different bullets.
On the night of January 7th, 2018, Lauren DeWise was found dead in her bed inside a Belgrade home, killed with what investigators say were .22 caliber bullets. Detectives walked through pages of chilling texts between Joseph Paul DeWise and Lauren, putting together a story about an abusive relationship leading up to her death and the joint shooting of housemate Ashley Van Hemert. But detectives say the evidence was disposed of, including the gun. Until today. Detective Sergeant Dustin Lensing says a couple walking near Trout Meadow Pond in Bozeman found the gun in there.
Can you tell from the records that have been provided when that firearm was purchased?
Yes.
Another bombshell in the form of recordings taken from DeWise's phone.
I recorded on his phone of an altercation between him, Lauren, and I believe both of the children.
Including one that he says took a dark turn.
The defendant starts threatening her, threatening to kill her. He says very specifically, I think at least 5 times, I'm going to kill you.
The courtroom got to hear it themselves. Detective James Esper also testified, having been in the room with DeWise shortly after he was first brought in for questioning.
The person that came in ended up shooting.
Esper says DeWise's demeanor seemed rehearsed, calm, quiet, yet rocking in his chair. In Bozeman, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
Joseph Paul DeWise, count 1, to the charge of deliberate homicide of Lauren DeWise, guilty.
The conclusion of a 7-day trial and 2 hours of deliberation. The jury found Paul DeWise guilty on all 3 counts, including deliberate homicide, attempted deliberate homicide in the shooting of Ashley Van Hemert, and using a gun to commit the crimes. The hallway filled with those who knew Lauren, investigators, and Joe DeWise after the verdict. The courtroom had still been buzzing after hearing testimony directly from DeWise himself.
I have been in jail for 22 months waiting for an opportunity to explain to a jury that I'm innocent.
Paul DeWise's testimony began quietly, recalling his relationship with Lauren, including what he calls were good times traveling across the country. But when asked about audio and video recordings found on his phone, DeWise's demeanor changed.
I never threatened my wife in any way like that. I'm not that kind of a person. I respected and I loved her strength and her individuality.
DeWise says he did not go back to Audrey Butler's home, where Lauren and Ashley Van Hemert were sleeping when someone broke in and shot them both.
I don't remember doing a lot that day. I was sick.
DeWise says that was it. When the prosecution brought forth the recordings and evidence linking the cartridges found to the .22 Ruger pistol found in a pond and purchased by DeWise, DeWise became angry.
There's a lot of circumstantial evidence out there, all right? But you know what? If a lot of you took a real good look at your life and you thought about things that you did and then something bad happened, you could be in the same boat I'm in.
DeWise also claimed he never threatened his wife, following an audio tape of Paul's voice telling Lauren he would kill her.
I'm not a controlling person. I don't even know how to do that. And anybody who knows me knows that.
And DeWise confirmed he called his daughter from jail too, but denies asking her to put the blame on her brother Joe.
The state wants to put so much pressure on me that I would just crack and take the blame for it so that I could get out of the horrible situation I was in.
DeWise claims the person who killed Lauren and shot Van Hemert is still on the loose.
I have been falsely accused here. I didn't do it, and I don't deserve to go to prison. And what you've done is wrong, okay? That is the truth.
In Bozeman, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
To the charge of deliberate homicide of Lauren DeWise, guilty.
It was very emotional for them and everything that they went through.
To Chief Prosecutor Eric Kitzmiller, it's a result of nearly 2 years of teamwork.
Without the cooperation and communication between those different agencies, something like this could not have been done.
Kitzmiller says the burden of proof was the first hurdle, from the audio and videotapes to the recovered gun, the bullets found in the home where Lauren was found dead and Ashley Van Hemert was found badly injured. He adds Van Hemert's recovery is inspirational.
When you see the struggles that Ashley has been through, and the progress that she has made over the past few months to try and begin the road to recovery, she's able to walk up to the witness stand, and that she's able to articulate what she can recall that happened that evening, and that she's able to face the offender in this particular case. It was very powerful.
Kitzmiller says domestic violence like this case is a growing problem in the Gallatin Valley, something the attorney's office aims to curb.
Coming forward is not easy. That there is a degree of manipulation and control that the offender has exerted over those people.
And Van Hemert wasn't alone. DeWise's kids, Natalie and Joseph DeWise Jr., had both spoken to a silent courtroom before their father, now convicted of shooting and killing their stepmother, did so himself.
I have been falsely accused here. I didn't do it.
They were very brave in coming forward, and it was just part of the process of them getting out from underneath of his influence.
Nearly 2 months have passed since Joseph Paul DeWise was found guilty by jury of 3 different counts.
The circumstances of this crime are outrageous. They are aggravated and they are intolerable.
I can't do any of the stuff that I enjoyed doing before.
The district courtroom was packed, and Ashley Van Hemert's brothers, sister, and mother all sat to support the woman who woke up on January 6th, 2018 to find a man standing over her in the dark.
It's night and day from before January 6, 2018.
Paul DeWise, convicted of shooting both Van Hemert and killing his former wife, Lauren Walder DeWise, listened quietly. While she took out notes, Van Hemert rarely looked at them.
I've had to learn to live with only the use of my right hand and arm. So I've had to learn to dress all over again.
Her brothers, Caleb and Terrell, also took the stand with words meant only for DeWise.
You tried to kill my sister. You did a pretty darn good job of trying to do it. Unless God intervened, she would be dead. She was on the ground for, I believe, almost 9 hours. Wondering if she was gonna die. What do you think that felt like?
In the end, each Van Hemert, from Linda, her mother, to her sister Carissa, told DeWise they forgave him. Then, Paul DeWise himself began to speak.
I feel for Ashley. She's a special lady.
Going on and off a written statement, DeWise spoke for nearly an hour.
The prosecutor kind of makes his story better every time I hear him. I've never had a problem. I've never had anybody accuse me of having trouble with my temper.
But Ashley's voice rang out the loudest.
Mr. DeWise, thank you for looking at me. It is well with my soul what you have done to me.
Then Ashley, to the man who shot her 4 times, including in the back of the head, gave that same man a Bible with a poem, which she brought, but once again, she never needed to look down.
If God can forgive me an unlimited amount of times, then how can I withhold forgiveness from you, Paul? If God can forgive me an unlimited amount of times, then how can I withhold forgiveness from you, Paul?
In Bozeman, Cody Boyer, MTN News.